Dubai's ruler Sheikh Mohammed speaking to the BBC's John Sopel there. To Turkey now, where a recent investigation into public sector corruption involving the construction industry has sent shockwaves throughout the country. The probe saw 3 ministers resign and prompted a cabinet reshuffle. Jody Sabral reports from Istanbul on the economic implications of the scandal.
During the 11 years that Turkey's Prime Minister, Mr. Erdogan, and his AK party have been in power, the construction sector has been thriving. It's boom time in Istanbul. The city generates 27% of the country's GDP and a quarter of its tax revenues. Having returned from many years abroad in 2007, Alaaddin Babaoğlu has benefited from the boom and set up a real estate investment business with German partners. His vision to provide sustainable housing and recreation space for 4,000 people on the shores of the Golden Horn has become part of the government's city regeneration plan.
What we have experienced was, for business, absolutely a very, very positive environment in every aspect. The business environment with financing, for example, in the worst financial crisis, it was 2008 and 2009, we were able to fund our project with local banks in Turkey.
But allegations of favouritism and bribery in the sector were brought to the public's attention in December, after a corruption probe was launched against businessmen close to the Prime Minister. Among 30 businessmen detained were the sons of 3 ministers and the head of a state-run bank.
Sadly, nepotism is not new to Turkey, but in the last 11 years it increased. That's because Mr. Erdogan's vision was to create a more organic business environment close to the party, more Islamic, to challenge the established big finance groups such as TÜSİAD, a pro-secular business lobby able to pressurize previous governments.
One man under scrutiny is Mr. Abaoğlu, and he's the man behind this mega housing project you can see behind me called Maslak 1453, the year the Turks conquered Constantinople. This is what they call a residence in Turkey. It will have its own shopping malls, restaurants, cinemas and hairdressers. It's attractive to home buyers because it's selling a lifestyle said to take the stress out of living in a metropolis of 16 million people. Mr. Abaoğlu has contracts with TOKİ, the Prime Ministry Housing Development Administration. He was detained on December 17th, released 4 days later and placed under a travel ban. He declined our request for an interview. The allegations of corruption are still being investigated, but it's not the first time such reports have surfaced. In 2009, a former AK party member claimed he saw corruption in Fatih municipality, an AK party stronghold, and resigned from his municipal job. Today, modern apartments stand where there was once a Roma settlement. The Sulukule housing redevelopment project was controversial at the time because it involved evicting the Roma community from land they'd lived on for generations.
Local officials in Fatih actually started talking about the regeneration projects even before the legislation came into effect after the 2004 election. At that time, they started studying the deeds to see which lots belonged to who. Suddenly, after the law was passed, these lots started being sold to certain people. They even came to me and offered me to buy some. They proposed prime property that would increase in value.
But Alaaddin says that it's up to the investor to set the rules.
You have means to protect yourself and go your correct and clean way of doing business. It could maybe cost you a bit more time potentially, but this doesn't mean you cannot do the job. The importance is you have to show the personal decisiveness to do your job according to the ethics and disciplined rules.
The corruption scandal has shaken the government and the business community to its core. The lira hit an all-time low in January, sending foreign debt to a record high, a formula that may curb Mr. Erdogan's mega building projects and test him at local elections in March.
Jody Sabral reporting from Istanbul there. Right, we're going to take a short break now.